The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation. Make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels. Operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants, as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Gilbert, Arizona, on your new fire apparatus, job number 32175. Please utilize this job number when referencing your apparatus with Hughes Fire Equipment and Pierce Manufacturing. Let's get started on a brief orientation of your new apparatus. Starting at the front bumper, just under the front bumper, you'll find two open-ended tow hooks. Just to the side of that, you'll find dual air horns. Moving up onto the face of the bumper, you'll find 4 speakers. These are a combination of siren and also PA speakers. Up onto the top, you'll find a storage location for hose, in addition with 2 drop downs for ease of access for accessing that hose. On the left and right side, you'll find an emergency warning light. As we move further up onto the body, you'll find 2 forward-facing emergency warning lights. And as we move to the headlight cluster, low beam is on the outer edge, high beam is on the inside, and you also have a turn indicator. Up from that, you'll find an additional emergency warning light. Moving to the outer edge of your vehicle, you'll find 2 mirrors. The bottom mirror will be flat, and their upper portion will be convexed. At the very top, you'll find a center forward-facing floodlight. And across the brow of the apparatus, you'll find 5 running lights. Moving all the way to the very top of the apparatus on the roof, you'll find your emergency warning light bar. Located within inside the emergency warning light bar is your Opticom system. Here are some close-ups of those images we just talked about. Let's move now to the passenger side bumper area. You'll find an access point behind this emergency light. This will gain access to your cab lift. There are some instructions on the left side here, in addition with a lock release, activate, and then the ability to switch between lower and raise, that is the red switch, and then just beneath that you have a location for plugging in your remote. Here are some close-ups of those images of the front bumper. As we look into that area, you'll find first a hose divider, and you'll also find an 1.5-inch swivel on the passenger side and also on the driver's side. The actual lid is held open with gas struts, and there is also a twist lock on the very top for securing that lid. The drop downs on the side will gain easy access for hose loading and also hose deployment. As we move to the driver's side, you'll find your shoreline inlet, which is a 20 amp auto eject plug. That is the red plug. And then you'll find your air conditioner, which is also a 20 amp auto eject plug. Underneath in the same vicinity, you'll find the drain for that front bumper load. You'll also find just to the rear of the front wheel your terminal locations for positive and negative battery. There are sufficient grab handles on all points of entry. As we look to the very top, you'll find a side-facing floodlight. Moving to the rear section, you'll find a side-facing emergency warning light. Just beneath that warning light, you'll find your tank indicator. And then moving all the way down to the lower section, you'll find an additional warning light. Let's go ahead and take a look at the midsection of your apparatus. There is a compartment door here just below the crosslay. In addition, with a step at the very bottom, there are also drains, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. And I have some close-ups of those images. In addition, with a foot pedal for your rewind on your hose reel at the very top. Just in front of the rear axle, you'll find the folding wheel chocks. And we'll now start in the upper left-hand corner, the number 1 and number 2 crosslay. Let's go ahead and move up now to the top of the apparatus. This is your hose reel. At the foot pedal location was the rewind switch.
As we move through, you'll find the number 1 crosslay and then also a 2.5 inch crosslay. They are labeled and also color coded. At the very base of this, on this door, you'll find a warning label here regarding the possibility of entanglement hazards. Be cautious as to those hoses coming off from that location. Once your pump is properly engaged, you'll find a center LED light activate. You'll find the pump intake on your left-hand side, and then you'll find your pump discharge on the right side. Moving further to the right, you'll find your water level in blue from full, 3/4, half, quarter, and refill. As we move to the right, you'll find your transmission oil temperature. This is a gauge for that. Once it exceeds its oil temperature, you will find an amber light that lights, which is just above this placard. And then we'll go ahead and move all the way to the right-hand side, and we'll talk about your engine info. Starting on the engine information, first there are 4 gauges around the outer edge: oil pressure, water temperature, voltage, and fuel, in addition with some warning lights. Check transmission at the very top is in amber. As you move to the left, oil pressure and stop and battery are in red. And as you move also to the right, you'll find your water temp, check engine, and fuel. There's also an audible alarm at the bottom. As we move through the discharges on the lower left-hand corner, we'll start with where the arrow's at, number 1 crosslay, 2.5 inch crosslay. Those are the 2 directly above our location now. You also have an 1.75 inch rear discharge, a 2.5 inch rear discharge. You have the number 2 reel discharge, deluge discharge, number 4 passenger side discharge. You also have number 1 and 3, which are your controls, and then at the very side, the number 5 driver side discharge. We'll go through some of those in the next set of images as we get to a little bit more closer of those individual discharges. But over the number 4, you'll find your vacuum and pressure test port gauges. In that same vicinity, you'll find your fire pump primer. And then to the right, you'll find this Pierce throttle pressure governor. We'll talk about that in a few moments. And then also a warning label here regarding not to ride on the side of your apparatus while it's in motion. This red module here is your foam system module. We'll talk about that in great detail in the next set of images. There's also a foam system tank level indicator here, once again from full, 3/4, half, quarter to refill. You'll find some switches across the top here. These are predominantly for your lighting. We'll talk a little bit about those in the next set of images. As we move to the right, you'll find your tank drain, and you'll also find a warning label here regarding pressurized caps and the associated hazards while opening those pressurized caps. To the far right, you'll find your engine cooler, which is a twist, not a pull. And then just beneath that, you'll find your engine recirculating line. Same thing. This is twist, not pull. You'll also find your tank to pump and also your tank fill. They're the black handled. If your pump is properly engaged, you'll find the pump engaged light illuminating. It's a green indicator. We'll next talk about this, the red module, which is your foam system. This is the Pierce Husky 12 system. First on the left, you'll find in red the on-off switch, in yellow the foam prime. The green are increase or decrease the percentages, and then you also have a page and enter button. On the right, you'll find your foam level. Moving to the right side of that location, you'll find some switches. These are the driver's side scene lights, passenger side scene lights, panel lights, pump compartment lights. You have a spare or future location, and then you also have rear scene, and then once again your pump engaged. Moving further to the right, you'll find your primer for your fire pump. It's a push to prime. There are some instructions just beneath that for better performance, if you run your engine at 1,000 RPMs while priming, it will activate faster. Once you see this light activated on the green indicating that you can now open the throttle through your Pierce throttle pressure governor, first you'll look at the mode that you select, whether you want PSI mode or RPM mode. From there you can scroll through the menu, increase or decrease depending on your needs. Down at this lower placard, you'll find your minimum operation maintenance schedule. That coincides with the placard on the right-hand side, which is your Pierce 150, 200, and 250 PSI test pressures. We'll get to that in a few moments. Down in the very bottom area, you'll find your auxiliary foam functions, which is for your foam inlet, foam strainer, and also your foam drain. Just to the right of the inlet, you will find this warning label regarding the possibility of foam failure and not to mix different product type foams or percentages. This is your Pierce maintenance schedule for 150, 200, and 250 PSI. You can see on the left-hand side is your GPM, and on the right-hand side are the RPMs. See your owner's manual for further information on conducting those tests. Let's go ahead and move to the left-hand side of the panel. This is your TFT. This is the monitor operation station for your deluge system. As we look down to the next set, you'll find a set of placards regarding your Husky Foam System 12. You'll also find this placard, which is that only trained personnel should operate this equipment, and you should seek your owner's manual for more information. Here's a close-up of the TFT monitor operation station. As we look to the very bottom, you'll find your driver's side auxiliary inlet. This is a 2.5-inch female. And as we look to the right, you'll find this placard. This is the Watrous placard, indicating the type and transmission of pump that you have. Just beneath that, you'll find all your associated drains that are color-coded and also labeled. Here is that Watrous placard. You can see that you have a CSU model pump. As we look down in the very right-hand side of your pump panel, you'll go into the foam area. Inside this pan door is where you'll find your foam operations. The horizontal position is in its current position is for operation, and the vertical position would be for filling or draining. As we move to the Dunnage area, you will find your deluge system. This is what the control module for your TFT controls. Up on top of the cab, you'll find your 20 amp air conditioning unit. This is when plugged into shore power. This will operate. Just beneath that, you'll find an additional strip lighting. And as we move to the Dunnage area again, this is your Husky 12 foam system reservoir. This is the hydraulic reservoir, which houses the hydraulic fluid. There is a fill on the top and also a sight gauge on the inside side of it. Up above that, you'll find a work light. As we work through some of the other items on top, I would like to point out that at the very top you'll find your foam A access. This is to gain access to your foam tank, and then you'll also find access to your water tank. On the top of the walkway, you'll also notify the yellow diamond reflective tape. This is for firefighter enhanced safety. As we move through some of the images, this is your foam A tank, hydraulic reservoir, sight gauge, a 24-foot extension ladder, a 14-foot roof. The blue tank is your water tank. Just underneath this panel, you'll see the plumbing and also the green tank, which is for your foam tank. General view of the side of the apparatus will start here with the first compartment. As we open the door, you'll find first your shore power outlet. This is when plugged into shore power. This will power the device in the upper left-hand corner, which happens to be an auto charger 1200. This will maintain your batteries while parked in your apparatus bay. There is also venting for continuous airflow within your compartments. You'll find SCBA bottle storage locations on the pan doors in front and rear of the rear tire. You'll also find on the driver's side the access point for your diesel, ultra low sulfur diesel. That's the silver cap. As you return the flap down, you'll find this exposes the blue cap, which is your 4.5 US gallon DEF tank. Located over the center, you'll find an SCBA in this compartment, in addition with side lighting for emergency lights. As we move to the rear compartment, you'll find sufficient shelving that is adjustable and also has LED lighting within side. As we move to the side of the apparatus, you'll find a side-facing floodlight at the front and also run at the rear. And then as we move around to the very back at the top, you'll find your emergency warning light on the side and rear of the apparatus. Let's go ahead and move to the rear of the apparatus. You will find a pull-out drop-down step. You'll also find 2 attachment points here and perimeter lighting underneath the rear of the apparatus. As we move to the sides, you'll find on the rear this cluster, which houses your brake, turn, emergency light, and also backup. There are 2 cupped switches here, which we'll talk about with a close-up here in just a few moments. And then you also have a cluster on the left and right for backup lights or I should say scene lights, and emergency warning lights. There are steps to gain access up to the hose bed area that do fold down. You do have a traffic advisor, and at the very top you'll find your backup camera. You'll also find sufficient access points for grab handles. And there are also 3 pan doors, which we'll talk about in the next set of images. Let's take a look at some close-ups here of the rear section of your apparatus. First, starting just underneath the truck, you see the pull-out stuff on the left-hand side, and then the attachment points on the right. These are your rear scene lights and also work light. On the left-hand side, you will find your 10-foot folding ladder and also your foam fill location for your hose. In the upper left-hand corner, you'll find your air compressor for your air brakes. This is going to be on the right-hand side of the vehicle. This is your backboard storage location. Backup camera. Let's go ahead and take a look at the passenger side of the vehicle, and we'll identify some of the items that are of importance on this side. First, let's start in the very rear compartment with your pegboard. There is a twist to allow you to gain access to the back side of the pegboard. When it's in its full outright position, it will lock into position. To release that, look to the hinge side for the release mechanism. You have a few pan doors on this side. A couple are for SCBA bottle storage. The other is for your ultra low sulfur diesel fuel. This is an additional fill location on the passenger side. You also have your equipment rack hydraulic reservoir in this location. As we move to the center compartment, adjustable shelving and LED lighting inside. And then as we move to the forward compartment, you'll find 2 bottle storage locations here. Would like to point out this sticker regarding a warning label regarding extremely hot diesel exhaust temperatures, and be cautious as to where you park your vehicle. Let's go ahead and move to the forward compartment now. Once again, adjustable shelving and LED lighting. And now we'll move to the midpoint of the apparatus. There are about 4 pan doors located in this area, and we'll talk about those in detail. You also have your powered equipment rack. This is the module for controlling it. As we move down from that location, you will find your reel rewind, 2 2.5-inch discharges, a few warning labels here. First, this is your pressurized caps and the associated hazards with removing those caps under pressure. And then at the very top, you'll find once again a warning label regarding not to ride on the side of your apparatus while in motion. The American flag Eagle Pierce logo is your large diameter intake, and then to the right of that, the Storts connection. This is your large diameter discharge. Moving down to the very bottom, you'll find your discharge drains, and then moving further to the right, you'll find your 2.5-inch auxiliary inlet. This is on the passenger side of the vehicle. This is a female coupling. You'll also find 3 fold-down steps on the side of the cab to gain access up to those crosslays. Down at the very bottom, you will find a pull-out shelf. As we look through some of the modules here behind some of the components, you'll find in this compartment your water strainer. Intake relief valve. Access for all of your control modules, and then we'll go over your powered equipment rack. First, I would like to note there is some danger because of the moving equipment rack. There is also a master on and off, which will give you the green indicator, and then there's also a lift for up and down. There is instructions on how to raise and how to lower your device. Please make sure that items are secured. Close-ups here of the side of the pump panel. As we move down to the lower right, you'll find your intake relief valve drain, 2.5-inch auxiliary passenger side inlet, Let's go ahead and take a look at the cross lays. First you'll find your 2.5 inch and then 1.75 inch cross lay. And then just beneath that you'll also find an additional access storage compartment. Up in the upper right hand corner you will find a tank vision. This is for a level indicator of how much water is in your tank. Let's go ahead and move through the side of the cab of your apparatus. We'll also talk about some of the items inside. First, as we look into the rear of the apparatus, you have 2 rear-facing seats and also 2 forward-facing seats. Looking overhead, you'll find your air conditioning. This is the air conditioner that is when your vehicle is in operation. The other air conditioner in white is for when you're plugged into shore power. There are grab handles also on top of the ceiling area, and also a push on and off white and red light. Once again, these are the controls for your AC unit while parked in your apparatus bay or plugged into shore power. You also have 2 fans in this area that are 12 volt, controlled from the switch with the arrow indicating. You also have USB style plugs for 12 volt access on the right and left side of the vehicle. There is also portable radio storage locations here with chargers. As we look to the very back of the apparatus, you'll find your EQ2B. This is for your federal siren system. And just a general view here of the cab looking from the rear forward. As we look in between the operator and the driver's seat, you'll find this access panel for your engine oil and transmission fill locations. And at all points of entry, this happens to be the passenger side door, are these warning labels regarding safety for your firefighters. In the upper top section, you'll find your SRS sticker, which is indicating that you have a supplemental restraint system, an airbag. Just beneath that, you'll also find the placard regarding not to mount any additional equipment below that. Up onto the dash, you'll find your go light. This is the control for the spotlight on top of the vehicle, a 12 volt access point USB style, and also a push button for your air horn. As we look to the console area, you'll find your push to talk for your SETCOM head system. And then also you'll find your computer mount. In the very front, you'll find your vehicle data recorder. This is an access port. You'll also find a barrel style 12 volt access point behind your computer system. Overhead, you'll find your unit radio. You'll also find a system radio, which is your Sirius XM Bluetooth CD and also weather band radio. Overhead, you'll find your emergency master, 3 future switch locations, front scene, driver's side scene, passenger side scene, and rear scene. Overhead of the passenger's seat, you will find your control module for your SETCOM intercom system. You'll also find over the passenger and driver seat, push on and off red and white lights. As we move to the driver's location, once again at all points of entry, you'll find this set of warning labels. You'll also find information regarding the use of seat belts. Down in the right ankle area of the operator, you'll find this set of warning labels, and you'll also find a yellow placard, which we'll talk about in the next few moments. There is an air inlet and also an auto charging system. When plugged into shore power, the auto charge system will activate. As we move to the floor, you'll find the air horn and mechanical siren. Located just up from that location, you'll find these ports for diagnostic purposes. First, your engine and transmission diagnostic, SRS and transmission, engine ABS, and also engine diagnostic. This is also an audible speaker on the lower left. Moving up from that location, you'll find your battery switch on and off. That is the large red switch. That's your master switch. Moving to the right, you'll find your pump shift. There'll be 2 green indicators, pump engaged and OK to pump if properly engaged. As we talked earlier about that placard down in the lower right-hand corner, this is going to be the Pierce Manufacturing placard. It is a date of manufacture, July 2018, with a job number. In addition, it has information for your gross vehicle weight rating. It has your VIN number. It also had fluid capacities for the different types of components, fluid capacities, and types. As we move to the upper left-hand corner of the dash, you'll find your ignition start switch. You'll also find the panel switch, which will increase or decrease lights for the panel, and then also your headlight switch. Moving to the right to the dash area, these are the gauges in front of you. You'll find at the very bottom your transmission, oil, DEF level, fuel level, front air and rear air. At the very top, you'll find your water temperature, tachometer, speedometer, and also your voltage. You'll also find some diagnostic information just to the right. On the left-hand side, you'll find this placard in yellow. This is regarding from Pierce. This is when your vehicle was manufactured. It's 11 feet, 2.5 inches in height. The length is 34 feet, 11 inches, and your gross vehicle weight rating is 50,000 pounds. If you make any additions to this, please change this placard. This is the diagnostic information I referred to earlier. Will illuminate if needed. As we move further to the right, you'll also find a load manager, OK to engage the high idle, and the auto lube fault. General view here of the right-hand side of the dash area. We'll talk about some of these components individually. First, your climate control in the very top section. Then you'll find a set of switches underneath that. These are for the engine retarder and on and off. You also have an auto apply, and then to the right you'll find a DPF regen. The red switch is your DPF regen inhibit. To the right, you'll find an indicator regarding your supplemental restraint system fault and then your off-road traction. Just down beneath that, you'll find your EQ2B. This is your federal siren. Just beneath that on the left, you'll find your pull to apply your system parking brake in yellow and push to release. And to the right, you'll find that individually controlled go light on top of your apparatus. Moving up from this location, you'll find your Pierce command zone. There's a tremendous amount of information that can be viewed through this monitoring system. Please see the owner's manual for further instructions. You'll also find your traffic advisor. Onto the dash, you'll find your Allison transmission pad with an indication to pump and drive. You'll find 2 cup holders. You'll also find your main mirror control in the upper corner. Looking overhead of the operator's position, let's go through some of the switches in this area. First, starting in the red, you have your emergency master, electronic siren, front scene, rear scene, driver side scene, and passenger side scene. You also have 2 future switch locations if necessary. Let's move just slightly to the right of that to the next set of switches. Let's start with the engine brake, opticom, high beam flash, roof light, front warning, side warning, lower rear warning, and upper rear warning. Once these have been depressed, they will illuminate the color green, indicating that they are on. Moving to the right, you'll also find your PA system and siren control. Overhead, just a general view of your SETCOM headsets. General view here of the rear section of your apparatus. If you have any questions regarding the content of this video or any further information that's necessary, please contact your Hughes Fire sales representative.